Welcome to the Heat of Command podcast, Mastering the Art of Fire Service Leadership,
where we, your hosts, aim to teach you how to use introspection and self-reflection to be your most authentic, genuine self, leader, and human being.
And now, here are your hosts. This is Kyle Matusik.
And Carrie Henderson. Thanks for joining. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Heat of Command podcast. This is an exciting episode. I am here at FDIC in Indianapolis. We are recording on, Thursday, April 19th, and I've been here since Sunday. What an exciting experience. I think the numbers I heard yesterday, there are 35,000 people here for the conference, and it's just unbelievable. The stuff, the vendors, the people. I was super intimidated when I first got here. I'll be honest. It's like, a lot of really hardcore firefighters, which is cool, but I was intimidated and nervous to speak. I spoke Monday for the Women of Fire pre-conference, and that was fantastic. What a great audience. And I loved meeting everybody there and made a bunch of new connections all over the place, which is super fun. And then yesterday, I spoke for regular conference. Man, was I nervous, Kyle. I was super nervous. But holy cow, the audience that showed up, it was so freaking good. It was such good discussion and people were engaged and it was fun. It was super fun.
Yeah, it's been quite the month with, first of all, this is the first time we've hit the road and you were on your own. And, 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to speak at the Fire Service Women of Illinois Leadership Symposium. And, that was a amazing experience too, but it's like very strange going up there without you, right?
Yeah.
Like it's such a vibe and how we roll and how we can, I think how our stories complement each other. And it's, it's the yin and the yang. And to go up there by myself was like, all right, this is going to be a little interesting. How am I going to figure this out? And I know, you were saying the same things, but I think in the end of the day, I think it's just been a great month. April has started off with a bang and, it's going really well too.
Yeah. And I tweaked my presentation a little bit, but the whole purpose is everyone has a story, right? So when I started off the presentation, it was everyone has a story and Kyle may not be here, but here's his picture and you're going to know about him. And I'm going to tell you his story. I can't do it justice, but I'm going to tell you his story and I'm going to tell you my story. And I want to know your story so that we can all learn. And we have to understand from a compassionate place of leadership is we all have a story. And sometimes we don't know the whole story.
Yeah, and it's really cool to feed off audiences, right? As we continue down this road, it's a full circle experience. We get the opportunity to go and speak our minds a little bit, and I think it's something that we enjoy. But on the flip side, it's how much we get to take away as well. It's not, the goal isn't just to tell you my point of view or expect you to listen to me. No, I just want to tell you my story and, the successes and failures of both me and you. And hopefully in return of that, we learn as well, and we learn from our audience just as much as hopefully they're learning from us. And I think that's the real cool thing about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now I'm actually I met two women from Lubbock, Texas. And now this whole week we've been, trying to hang out and catch up. And it's just really cool to hear the stories all over the country and really all over the world. Like met some awesome guys from Canada that were training officers in Calgary. And man, the stuff that they are already doing for their recruits for this introspection and emotional intelligence stuff. They have a department of 1,400 people and it sounds like they're just killing it. And it's so cool to hear stories like that.
Yeah, when speaking 2 weeks ago at the Fire Service Women of Illinois, it's such a learning opportunity for me because, I'm a male in a male-dominated industry. I have the opportunity of working with you, and you start getting this more and more insight, right? And one aspect that I brought up in the presentation was like, we always try to fit into this box, right? You come into this profession, and it's happening today, right? And it doesn't matter if you're a male or female. You come into this profession and like you're expected to fit into this characteristic of what a traditional cultural firefighter is, right? We develop this mentality of what we think we need to be. And I think that's in any profession or any area of life. Like we try to fit in. And through that, though, we lose every sense of self. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle within our industry, especially when you see the brokenness and the stories, what is everybody's story? And you learn about the past. And then we go into a profession where you can essentially cope your way through life, right? Just live in this identity that is not even who you are. And I think that's like where the struggle is, and it's very cyclical. So then going on and seeing, talking to a lot of the females after my presentation, like, yeah, you get it. And you're like, we're speaking their language. Like they come in this and they feel like they have something to prove almost greater than a male counterpart because they're different and they're a minority in our industry. So it's very interesting, to learn that and just to hear that feedback. And one thing, when we spoke in Virginia and talking to Chief Sam Green and, what we got going on in Illinois, I had the opportunity to sit down with Christy Lynch as well, and we'll queue up a short little interview we had with her. And welcome back. This is Kyle, and today I have the fortunate opportunity of being with the Fire Service Women of Illinois Leadership Symposium Conference here in Peoria, Illinois. And I'm with the president of the Fire Service Women of Illinois, Christy Lynch. How you doing this morning, Christy?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Very good. Thanks for having me, and thanks for being a part of our podcast as, Carrie and I continue our message on building what we think leadership should look like going forward. And it's always great to get in front of new audiences. And for me, it's building my network too and meeting new people and just having fun, because that's what it's all about, is building relationships.
Yeah, for sure.
So getting involved with the Fire Service of Women in Illinois, why don't you give us a little background on the organization, when you got involved, and kind of where you're at today and some future outlooks?
So they started in 2001. The goal of the organization is to do training and networking for women in the fire service. They plugged along for a few years, and then they kind of had a little bit of a lull period and then got revamped. And that's kind of when I came on board. I've been with them for a few years now. As you said, I'm the president of the organization, and that is still our mission. We're trying to do training network throughout the entire state of Illinois. Our last event was a full burn tower day at Romeoville Fire Academy. So we do hands-on training, and then we do symposiums like this. We're down here in Peoria. Peoria Fire Department was graciously hosting us, gave us an opportunity to get to this, more of the southern part of the state and connect with some different women down here.
Yeah, Illinois is really an interesting state, especially how it's divided. We have the north part, which is suburban Chicagoland, a lot of career departments, and then you get to the bottom 2/3 of the state, and it's so different.
Yeah, the joke is that there's really two states here, right?
Right.
And everybody here in Peoria would tell you that for sure, right? And the makeup of our organization, we have women from all over the state of Illinois, and there's women here from the city of Chicago, there's women here from Wisconsin, from the Ohio border, so there's women from all over, volunteer, career, combination departments, which is nice because you're getting a wide swath of different experiences, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So as far as your organization, like what are some outlooks and goals, I guess, as president that you have for Fire Service Women of Illinois?
So I think, one thing for us, we've talked already about the recruitment of, firefighters in general. And for us as women, women only make up 8% of the fire service. And that's something that we are actively trying to change. So, one of our big goals is to, be present so that people can see that there are female firefighters. Organizations may have 1-2 females, and it can be very isolating if you're the only female on an organization. So we want to be a place where women can find other women to connect with. So that's a big goal of ours, is that outreach portion of it, just so that women can see, there's a place of women, I'm having this problem, I can connect with them. Or, if I'm an officer and you talk about even a smaller percentage of females, that's the smaller percentage. Today's conference is all about leadership. That's because the women said that's what we want out of our next training opportunity. We always put information out to the members and say, what are you looking for from us? So this year we kind of planned out the year. This was our first one to do this leadership symposium because that was really asked of us, was we want that. And then we're going to do another live training event probably in the fall. We're still working out the details with that. We always are doing CPAT. CPAT is a challenge in the fire service for a lot of people. It certainly can be a challenge for women. So we always are trying to touch base on that piece of the puzzle to try to get women access to doing more of that CPAT training. So that's something that we're looking at for this year as well.
Very cool. Sounds like a lot of exciting things on the forefront, which is pretty awesome. When we look at leadership and how just involved and how deep we can get on the subject, and to be a female coming into this type of industry, I can only imagine is very tough. And, I get the fortunate opportunity of my colleague and Carrie, and we get to discuss and work on and have these open discussions. And it's made me realize a lot of things too. And we've had the opportunity to speak in Virginia as well to some of the women's groups. And, it's very interesting to see what they're doing. And like a lot of things just click in my head, like, why haven't we been doing that? For example, they're going to start doing hot classes, or I think they want to at their Virginia Fire Rescue Conference, but they want the male counterparts to be involved with, because like we have to learn how to train our people,
Absolutely. Yeah. And when we do the live training, there was a mix of female instructors and there was male instructors. We've already said there's not a lot of women in the fire service. So it's difficult to put a training class on where I would really only have female instructors, right? So we do. And, we never want to be an organization that, yep, we're women only and, everybody stay out. That's not our goal.
So awesome.
We are an encompassing group. And yeah, we have males that attend our trainings, and we want that because like you said, we're all doing the same job. It just is going to look a little bit different. And so you do need them to see that. And I have seen there's a shift, right? I've been in the fire service for 27 years. I've seen the shift myself, that I think by and large, people want people to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's not that idea of like, when I started, it was, you're going to do it this way. And that's it. We don't care. Like, you got to figure it out. Now it's different. So we're looking at it like, okay, we understand that you're different, and we're going to figure out how you're going to move that ladder versus how this guy's going to move that ladder. And I think I do see the change happening. And like you said, training is important because they can see that and go, oh, some guys just don't recognize it. And I often say it is not about physical strength. And it's never been about that for me. I feel wholeheartedly you can train your body to do anything. I was an Olympic weightlifter for a while. So I can train myself to do anything. It's my height that always got me. I'm only 5'1", and I'm not, listen, I work with some short-statured men. So it's not just me. We're recognizing it, right? Like, we've done some things on our rigs. We've lowered hose beds, and that's not just for me.
Yeah.
That's safer for everybody, right? Why would we want to make a huge step down for everybody? The ladder racks, right?
Right.
That's a change in the fire service that we made. The ladder rack we just put on a new fire engines is the lowest I've even ever seen on one. And it's great, right? It's at a level that everybody can access. So those changes are huge.
So yeah, that sounds good. Now, I got to go off topic a little bit.
Sure, no, go ahead.
Because you brought up the Olympic weightlifting.
Oh,
so
sorry.
what is your clean and jerk and your snatch?
So at a 53 kilo lifter, my best competition, so 54 on snatch, and then, which everybody's going to love what I'm talking about. And then my best clean and jerk was 70 kilos at a 53 kilo lifter.
Very cool.
Yeah, I competed at the master's level. I was nationally ranked for a little bit. Yeah.
Were you really?
I was.
Where'd you train at?
I trained Aurora West. Shout out to my coach, Tom Kraus. He's been a strength and conditioning coach. He used to be with Sayre Park back in like the 80s and 90s, like when it was like
Sayre Park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, like I know all the players. So yeah, I love that sport. I don't unfortunately get to compete anymore. My hip got reconstructed. But yeah, so it was something it was a really good time. I really enjoyed it, and I coached it for a little while. Yeah.
Oh, we got way off topic. We're going to have to talk a little bit about that because I got more. That's pretty awesome. Well, yeah, that's pretty exciting for this weekend. And, it's great being down here. Unfortunately, Carrie couldn't be here, and she's going to be up at FDIC talking multiple days with the women in fire groups. And, for me, just getting more involved with this, it just opens your eyes to our industry and kind of, as you spoke to, we're progressing. Sometimes you wish the speed of things would be a little bit quicker.
Right.
But just with the history of our industry, I think this change is good, and moving in the right direction, and just being involved with Carrie and working with Carrie to see things from a different perspective is really eye-opening. And hopefully we just could keep doing the work, spreading the message and creating that change. And you get to do the same with what you're doing with the Fire Service Women of Illinois. So anything final with the conference or anything you want to share with us before we
I just would say that your presentation was great. I really enjoyed it. And I think it spurred a lot of discussion amongst the girls and the ladies in the class. What's nice is there's a wide, diverse group of, brand new firefighters to senior firefighters. I think it challenges the senior firefighters, myself included. Yeah. I am that Gen X that, definitely fit into that box of tradition and all those things, and all that was instilled into me by my family. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't a big leap when I made the fire service of here's how you got to be, because that's how I was raised.
Yeah.
But being a mom to teenage college children, I see the difference in them, and it's really influenced the way I think about leadership and especially the very, very new people that we look at. We see these probationary firefighters and, we want them to fit in the box that we fit into, and they don't. And if we don't change our perspective on that, we're going to continue to struggle with recruitment in this line of work. So we do have to look at those things and how can we improve that? How do we do better? And everybody's talking about in the fire service, right? Like when you have kids that I got to identify, like, this is what a screwdriver is. This is a Phillips. This is a flathead. Yeah, we got to do that now, right? Like no one.
We're there. Get over it, right?
Yeah, right. We can keep being mad about it.
Right.
Again, I'm not telling you I love it, but or I could just, all right, I got to teach you this piece of the puzzle too. Yeah.
So, well, that's very exciting. I appreciate your time today, and maybe we'll get on a full-length episode one day as well, too.
And talk more about weightlifting?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a preferred topic. Yeah, sure.
Awesome. Right. Well, thanks, and enjoy the rest.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. A lot of times from the outside looking in, you think they are, they're just meant for the women. But it's so false. Like, we need to get the men to go to these involved in these groups as well, involved in these trainings, because it's like, hey, look at it from this side. It's not like me and you talk about, Carrie. It's not about lowering standards. We never talk about lowering standards. In fact, we talk about raising standards. So if we could train our people better, we can raise standards. And if we can understand that the biomechanics of a female are different than a male, the way they pull a hose line, the way they throw a ladder might look a little bit different, but the standard is still the same. Right? We're not here about lowering standards. We're about raising standards. But if we learn to train our individuals better and maybe have to shift some things a little bit for our female counterparts or the males or the size of a person, put them in a position to succeed, well, then these are opportunities for the instructors out there to go to, a hot class that is for the women in the fire service so you can learn how to properly train them. Because it might look different, and that's okay. That is like knowing your people and putting them in a position to succeed. And I think that's, to start spreading that message, I think for these organizations, like the guys and the instructors, like you need to start going into these organizations and seeing what they're doing and seeing what they're about. They want to be, we're holding everybody the same standard. It just might look a little different.
Yeah, it's interesting. When we first started doing our annual work performance test, which is like an annual physical agility test, we do it every year from the fire chief down. We all take the test. But when we first started doing it, and we did it in the fire academy too, and some of the techniques, it was interesting because there were definitely techniques for some of those events that for women, the technique needed to be a little different. But when I was like learning it, or if I was struggling with it, they'd say, hey, go get with such and such, and they would name a female firefighter and let her show you, her technique. And I'm like, now listening to what you're saying now, it's like, our guys should know those. If you're teaching it, you should know those techniques, right? That just made me think of that. Like, hey, you don't need to seek it out on your own. I can show you, or we can show you, or have someone there that can.
Right. You take a simple task, how high a hose bed is on some of the apparatus you see out there, and you have a 5'2" female, like it's going to look different. And should we even be putting people in those positions to succeed or fail? And if we want them to succeed, obviously the way we're training them has to look different. And that, again, has nothing to do with lowering the standard. It has everything to do with raising your standard as an instructor to how much I hate this term, right? More tools for the toolbox. Like I can't say that term, but essentially it is like, how do I train different individuals to achieve the same outcome?
Yeah.
Right? Because it's all going to look different.
And I think it's neat when men sit in like the Women of Fire stuff, because what I also see is, I wonder if sometimes do men think, all right, I sit in here and it's all these women, this is their experience, but at the same time, we're all still different in there as well, right? So this may work for one woman, but not for another woman. And I'm talking anything. I'm talking feedback, or, getting or receiving feedback, or performance, physical performance stuff, whatever it is. But it's still the notion that, take into consideration that there may be certain things that you can help globally for women, but, we're still, all individual.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing that I think I constantly take away. It's like, yeah, there's female and male, like totally. I get that. But at the end of the day, regardless how big your department is, let's say 100 people, you have 100 different individuals with different strengths, different weaknesses. And really, it doesn't matter if they're male or female. It doesn't matter anything. They are all different with different strengths and weaknesses. And, especially as instructors and leaders, like we have to adapt to that. And that's what we should be doing, not just have this one solid, like narrow road, it's one way or the highway type attitude, and that's all about advancing everybody, yourself as an instructor, as a leader, and then your subordinates as people that you are trying to train. Like everybody wins that way. When we keep it so narrow-minded and one way, that's where failure tends to happen.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I get a lot of women at the end of classes that will come up and ask, "Hey, how would you handle this?" Or "Have you ever handled something like this?" And a lot of times there's some sort of conflict in in their fire station or on the board that they sit on or whatever the group that they're in, and they'll always say, I would like to try to fix it, like the dynamics, but I don't know that they'll listen to me because I'm just, a woman, or I'm just little old whoever." And I wonder, and I'd love to ask like a bunch of men, like, does that make a difference? Because I don't think it probably doesn't. It's probably something in our own minds that we're still so self-conscious about that, I try to tell them, I bet they don't care who it comes from, that you're willing to help work through some of the stuff that's going on. If you come in confidently and empathetically to the situation, I don't think they're thinking that.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case anymore. That you might still have some of those, extremely old school departments that frown upon that. But I think moving forward and as an industry, I think that's more of the wayside. And, a lot of times we think of things in our own head, male or female, and it's like so far from the truth, Now, but at the same token, sure, there are groups within organizations that, you're not going to be heard just by the mere fact of who you are. This is like the cool people group, and this is the people we're going to listen to, right? And so it just might be a case of that, and then we want to tie it to something of our own character or where we're lacking, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's just you're different, you view things and I think a lot of times in our industry, when you start taking that different approach, you're looked at differently and examined differently. So you don't get those same opportunities to get involved or say your piece. So yeah, I think it has less to do with male or female and more to do on outlook, identity, and whether or not you're in that clique or not.
Yeah, that's very true. So anything else from Women of Fire in Illinois?
It was just a motivating group. I had a lot of people come up and, they ask a lot of questions and very tough questions too, and you're like, I don't know. Do you have the answer? We could let's talk about it, and so you get in some good conversation and, it's very validating. I think I sent you the letter that they had sent me, and I think it's very validating for what me and you are doing and the conversations that we're willing to have, even though it's, a lot of, I think it's the minority that, listen to the things we have to say still. And the majority is still against the kind of the stuff that we talk about. So it's almost that David versus, I said to you, that David versus Goliath, like how much do you put in an energy and the stress, even though you're constantly getting beat down on your message, but then you hear the people that are like, yes, we need to come speak at my department. My crews need to hear this and this and this. And it's like, all right, yeah, like this is the stuff that needs to be talked about. And, at the end of the day, and I explained it there, it's like, we're just talking about being a decent human being. Like we are all people. Like, let's just start there. Because in concept, when you talk about some of the stuff that we talk about, like it's very simple. Be kind and be a human. Like get the title and the profession out of your mind and just be kind and be a human being. But it's like so hard for a lot of people to do, So it's very interesting. And like I said, it's a learning experience for me, hopefully as much as for the people that we talk to, because you just get to learn so much and continually grow. And I think that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So anything else you want to chat about today?
I don't know. What else we got going on? I got an interesting opportunity next week. I'll be speaking at a trauma symposium. So that'll be a little bit different. I think we're going to go, and where we're headed, what we're going to start talking about, the big question we always tend to get is like, how do these, empathy and compassions put fires out? And I think we're going to start going and examining that, like how we motivate, encourage, and train our people, and raising standards, I think absolutely puts fires out quicker. So, that's going to be like a little segue as I go and speak there. It's going to be like, how do we critically think and maintain composure? And how do we get our people to do that during, treating a trauma victim and dealing with mass traumas and things like that? Because it comes down to critical decision making, composure, and, on fire ground, risk benefit analysis and making sure we're keeping our crew safe. So it's just kind of this different mindset. And so it should be interesting, and kind of where we're headed.
Yeah, I talk a lot about that I make decisions based on feeling, right? I've said that in a lot of our classes that I'm, for the good or the bad, like I'm how it feels to me is usually what I go with, backed up with, some experience.
Mm-hmm.
But lately I've been really interested in doing some research on so that feeling is really intuition. Sometimes it is just feeling because it's something I'm passionate about, or I feel like it's the right thing to do for the person or whatever. But I've been really interested to learn more about your intuition and where that comes from in the brain and how that is based on some sort of past experience you've had. And so it's not just some willy-nilly feeling. It's psychological and physiological. And so I've been doing some research to hopefully bring that when we speak again and talk more about how it puts fires out, right? What does your intuition do for you on a fire ground or on an emergency scene, and how can you really tap into that and how it relates to our message?
Yeah, I think so much has just changed in the industry over the last 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, right? Just from building construction to the hazards that we face, everything is different. Tactics, strategy, everything's different. And a lot of times, the people that are against this change, fail to realize that. Like in our area, and you go into the city of Chicago, they have, single story Chicago bungalows. They're all built the same. The layouts are the same and they burn the same, right? They're compartmentalized structures. If you get a room and contents fire, a lot of times it's just going to stay there, but that's the ways of old, in most parts of the country where you have open floor plans and a fire's going to take off with lightweight construction. By the time you get there, the ceiling is getting ready to collapse. So are you sending people to the roof? And a lot of times, you get this battle of old school versus new school. Why aren't people going to the roof? Well, it's going to cave in 2 minutes. Why are we going to put people up there, And, they're saying, that's weak and we're getting soft. And it's like, hold on a second. Things have changed and we can see that they've changed. So we're keeping our people safer. So, it's like this big old picture and it's looking at it from all sides. A lot of times we'll sit and talk, I enjoy these conversations and sometimes I'll spark them up with other people, outside of me and you. And there's sometimes there is some pushback. Well, what about, this younger generation is this, that, and the other thing. And I was like, okay, and it's just always challenging taking that next step. Well, why are they the way they are? Let's not, look at this and why do they examine things and why do they want to lower their risk and why, we have to understand the why people are the way they are. And I think that's what it comes down to all the time. And it doesn't matter, again, speaking at the female conferences, like it doesn't matter. None of that matters. It just matters that, we have to understand our people. You have to do it.
Yep.
But
absolutely.
and the only way you could do that is you have to understand yourself first. Like I am a big supporter and like that is where it starts. I don't think you can understand anybody else without understanding yourself first. So that's like where that introspection comes in. And it's like, you need to know who you are and you need to do that work. And then from there, you can start learning and having that empathy and compassion for other people and start learning how to train them better, how to be a better, boss, leader towards them, a better colleague, all this stuff where it becomes an individual basis. And in turn, we get to raise standards. None of these answers are quick. Nothing's going to change overnight. Nothing's going to change in a year. It depends how much work you want to put into yourself. So then you can put it into others.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so crazy. You and I have been talking about this whole introspection thing, for 2 years now. And it's stuff still happens for me. So lately I've started realizing that, I've always known I was a people pleaser, but I thought it was a good thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm always going to show up for you, how you need me, how you,
Mm-hmm.
how like, how do I say that? How you need me to show up,
Yeah.
right? So like if I'm in a room with this person, I'm like, I'm so in tune to people's emotions that it's like, all right, I'm going to show up this way for them and I'm going to show up this way for them. Well, that wasn't authentic at all.
Yeah,
It
right.
was like, it wasn't genuine. I thought I was doing that out of goodness and, compassion, which in my heart I was, but it wasn't genuine. It wasn't authentic. Just show up as Carrie. That's
Right.
what they need. That's what, makes it a better interaction or relationship is just show up as Carrie.
Yeah.
And you can love parts of me or hate parts of me or whatever, but it's a better relationship and interaction that way. So, and I'm just like figuring that out at 44.
Man, I'm with you, right? And our industry and our environment is the hardest place to try and figure that out because it's like there's, for me personally, there's so many people against you changing. They don't like it, right? And it's for whatever reason, they'll never tell you. And it's like, well, then I feel a lot better, and it's very interesting. And, it's funny. We talk about this authenticity and really what does it mean? There's two things. Number one, my wife's going on an interview today. She hasn't been in the workforce for, 8 years. And, she's freaking out about this interview. And I'm like, dude, just be yourself, you don't need to try and do anything. Like, just be you. Tell your story. Like, I get you're not the first, person to be a stay-at-home mom that's going back into the workforce, right? You're not. But tell your story. That's what they want to hear. And if they don't like it, okay, move on.
And it wasn't meant to be, right?
Don't try to be something you're not, or don't try to polish a statement. Sometimes that you go into these work trying to get a job and you try to create this resume and all this other stuff to make you look good. And it's like you lose every essence of who you are. And you want to go work for somebody who wants you, your truest version of yourself, not what's on paper, not what you portray in an interview. So I'm hoping she does well. And then the other thing, one thing I was thinking about, when it comes to authenticity, I think I had an experience recently and I was like, man, it has gone the other way where there might be an organization that is doing everything right? And it could be like a social group, whatever, an organization, place of employment, whatever. They're doing everything right. Like they get all of the stuff that we talk about and they're big proponents of things. But like, it's almost like they guessed right. Like they read the right book and said, we're going to institute that. But there's no personal identity behind that. It's almost like we're still going to do what we've read, which I think is good stuff. But like the authenticity isn't there, which is very interesting to see because you're like, hoorah, like, cool, that's awesome. But like, is this you, and what are your values? We still want those to come to the table. And I think maybe that's, a podcast for a different day to really examine that a little bit deeper. But it was very interesting, and then you really look at what this term authenticity means, and it's so deep, and it's so beyond the kind of that surface level of what it means to be a real, genuine person. And it's so much deeper than that on really understanding who you are, what your identity is, away from everything, away from every title you possibly could have. Like, who are you at your core? And then bring that into the world. And you got to understand there's going to be a lot of people who don't like that. And there's going to be a lot of people who do like that. And especially the older you get and you're part of, different environments and you're going through change in different environments, that's where a lot of pushback will happen. And that's from experience, right? Changing during a career, changing during something, you get a lot of pushback from that and not a lot of support. So it's just a very interesting thing to really learn what that means. And I think it's the more we talk and the more we examine this, it's almost like the more work I got to do, right? But I think it's cool to start putting that realization and dropping that seed in a lot of people's heads, because I think that's the goal in life is like, you have to learn who you are, like your truest identity, and bring that into the world. That's what we need.
Yeah. And I started talking this week in classes about very similar what you just brought up and we definitely need to write this down for a whole episode, is I think the fire service now, we see it at all the conferences we're going to, where people are starting to teach, you have to be compassionate. You have to care about the people that work for you. And so there's a big notion out there that, okay, I know I need to check on my people, right? So, hey, are you okay? Yep. Okay, good. I did it. But what happens if you are promoting people or hiring people who aren't genuinely compassionate? because there are people that are not built that way, right?
Right.
But now they know they have to show some sort of compassion and empathy, but it comes across like a used car salesman because it's not genuine at all. Like, I know you don't really care. I know you just have to ask me, which is almost worse.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd almost, I'd rather you say, I'm not good at this stuff. Let me connect you. I know you need something. Let me connect you with someone who is more empathetic than I am, or more, has whatever, more of those skills than I do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that takes a lot of humility, though, right? To say, I'm not good here. And I think, that's a challenging part for, I think, a lot of people, especially as they move up, is to really say those things out loud. Like, hey, I can't do this. I'm not compassionate. I know someone, someone's helping me. I'm not there yet. I still got a lot of work to do, but setting up those other avenues of where your resources are is an awesome point.
All right. Well, I think we can wrap this one up. I'm off to the Lucas Oil Stadium experience. The Colts Stadium is full of all kinds of fire stuff for me to go check out. And I did the convention hall yesterday after class, and holy cow, it was like I was exhausted. I had to come back into the room and take a nap.
Hey, naps
It's
are good.
so much stuff. It's so crazy.
It is a lot, right?
So we are going to go check out everything in the stadium and see more stuff.
All right. Well, you enjoy your last day at FDIC.
Thank you.
As we wrap up another episode, this has been Kyle
And Carrie
from the Heat of Command podcast.
Thank you, as always, for listening. Please make sure to follow and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. And as always, we love the feedback. Keep it coming.
See you next time.